Welcome to Creative Conflab, a podcast where we have honest conversations about creativity, art, design, and craft. Ready to get started? Let's go. Thank you for listening to Creative Conflab. You are listening to episode 3 with Pierre Tabbiner.
Hi.
Insert applause.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. So thank you so much for being a part of this and being one of my first guests on this show. We're all in a really weird place right now with the whole pandemic happening and self-isolating. So I'd like to start with you sharing something that has recently brought you joy.
I think about that a lot these days, or I try to think about that a lot. And honestly, there's a lot of things, big and small. I just launched a really fun program this week called Community Colors, hashtag Community Colors with a U, the Halifax edition. And that involved reaching out to I probably reached out to over 100 different artists out here, asked everybody to draw something Halifaxy for use in a coloring sheet sort of thing. And yesterday I went and picked up 750 sheets at my good friends at TPH, and I brought them to a few different places, and they're being distributed all over the place now.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's big joy. And it also keeps me really busy because all that had to be organized and planned. And then, of course, I can't rest. I had to make social media posts about it. And I mean, I reached out to Halifax ad agencies and shops and studios and galleries. I wanted to make social media posts for them to use too, if they want to. I go on a run ever since this pandemic started. I like to run, and I've been trying to do a 5K every other day. That's been the little rule. And
Amazing.
While my neighborhood's getting a little bit boring now, it's still nice to get out even when I don't want to get out. I do.
Yes. This morning I was out in the mist and rain just walking along the waterfront.
Yeah.
And it has made all the difference.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I mean, you got to get out, and we're so used to having to go out because we have to walk to the car to drive to work, or have to get on the bus to drive to work, or whatever. But now we don't have to force ourselves to that anymore.
Exactly. There's
a whole creed of human beings that just never open their blinds in their windows. I never understood that person. I wonder, God, if you never had to go out because you didn't have a dog to walk, how does that affect your mental health? But anyways, I enjoy getting out.
And for those that don't know you, even though I know everybody in my network already knows you,
cool.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. I am Pierre Tabbiner. I graduated from NSCC's graphic design program in 2003.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
Hi, Crystal and Rob.
That's right. I am a, Hufflepuff through and through. I've been working in ad agencies ever since 2003, whether it was in graphic design shops. My first job was 6 years at KFC, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, making in-store signage, Mother's Day mega meal type stuff. It was a great first job because I had to learn rules of software. Yeah, and not only that, but FedEx is coming later today, and we have to get these 50 signs printed, and it's not like you make a file and you send it off and the guy at the RIP fixes it if something's wrong. It's no, the guy at the RIP is 20 feet away. If it's wrong, it's coming right back to you because he's got other things to do. He's trimming stuff and whatever.
Right.
But I have training in graphic design, and then I became an art director, which is a graphic design that gets paid a little more and works a lot more.
Yeah.
After that,
I love that description. Yes.
Well, yeah, and it's such a silly thing, but cocktail parties, you got to have these explanations because I've also been a creative director, and nobody knows what that really is. I don't think anyway. I certainly didn't before I was in the industry. Creative director manages creative teams, so I would have an art director or copywriter team reporting to me, and I would say, yes, no, that idea is good, that idea is not good, but if you want to use it, here's what we got to do, stuff like that. Creative directing was one of the last things I was doing in the agency world, but now for the past year and a half, I've been full-time self-employed. under P. Tabbiner Design and Illustration. That's really fun, but it means that I have to flex every muscle that I have now. Not only am I laying out business cards like a graphic designer would, and yeah, that happens, but there's also a client needs to do an integrated campaign, and part of it involves radio. And I have to choose, do I involve a copywriter and, brief them and creative direct them? Or do I maybe have an idea and I can write them myself with a little bit of extra critical thinking? Comes up often. And not only that, but I'm working with brands right now that are, for example, they're just launching their social media presence. So, I'm contracted to do things like that now too. It's like, okay, great. That involves a lot of strategy. That involves planning a social content calendar. That involves creating a lot of content, a lot of miniature campaigns in advance. There's a lot of fourth dimensional thinking going on.
Yes, a lot. You do a lot, basically.
Yeah, I do a lot. And I think we all have to do a lot these days. Yeah. I think that's always been true about Atlantic Canada.
Yes. And especially when you run your own business, that's something I love and sometimes some days hate about also running my own business, is that you get to learn and expand and grow your skill set and try and experiment with things that if you were at a 9 to 5, you wouldn't necessarily get the opportunity to do. Yeah. So that's something I love about it. Yeah. And I've always loved continuing to learn and find out more about different areas. So like when social media started beginning to get hot and being another marketplace or channel, medium, whatever you want to call it, to market, I wanted to learn about that and see what that's all about.
Yeah, it's true. And like, it should be hard, if something's easy to do, that means you're not being challenged kind of thing, and you're not growing.
Yes, exactly.
So it's good to take all that you know and to apply it to whatever challenge you're at. And it can be hard, but it's also good to know when you're not the best fit for something and you involve, in my business speak, it's involving a subcontractor, but it's like, no, you call in your friends and say, I can't draw 50 coloring book illustrations in a week. Who can illustrate for me? That's an example, but yeah, I mean, you got to rely on people. And it's really cool that you said that, does Pierre need an introduction? Everybody knows him. It's like, I'm just another dude. I'm just a nice guy, but like being a nice guy is like a big part of it.
Well, definitely. I've had a lot of conversations, especially networking lately, because we're all virtually networking. We're trying to find, how do we stay focused on our business, but not sell anything, because no one wants to buy right now. And I keep having the conversation of your business, especially when you're one person, is actually a lot of you. You are your business. Yeah, it's so true. To try to separate those, you just can't do it, because at the end of the day, you're always going to be kind, good-hearted Pierre that, just wants to be happy and make people, happy around him.
Yeah. Well, thanks. But it's so true. And I mean, a lot of the best businesses of any industry over the decades have sort of shown that. I mean, Steve Jobs for Apple, any business that has like a really clear, Barker guy on top, well, you kind of identify that person with that business. And if I'm going to have a business that's named after me, well, I'm going to make my business behave the way that I do, if I can.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. In every part of the process,
As creatives, we all have a creative process that we go from an idea, developing the idea, executing the idea, to making it a tangible thing. Is there a step in the creative process that you would never skip? And what part of it is that?
It's tough. I mean, process is such a particular thing, and we're all taught certain things. And I'll tell you now, there's a lot of things that I was taught that I do, but a lot of things I was taught that I really don't do. I hardly I rarely start in a sketchbook, start with pen and paper. I don't know if that's surprising. Like I do that sometimes when I'm stuck, or I'll do that sometimes when it's like straight up an illustration or typography. It's like that I'll do a rough because I have to do that anyway. But
yeah, I'm similar.
yeah. So and there's a lot of process things like that I can't, or that I do skip. But I think about it, and the one thing that I do every single time that I can't skip is I got to talk it through. Like I need to hear firsthand what problems we're here to solve, and make sense of that stuff. In an agency, as a creative director, you can achieve that. But as an art director or even lower, a graphic designer, you don't really you're not privy to those conversations. You're just sort of told by the brief, well, what we're here to do. Here's what we're here to do. Here's the words on the brief. I didn't write the brief, so I'll just keep rereading the same paragraph over. You get a lot of that. And I learned over years to make sense of that, make that work. But I have found since I've been like, a creative leader, especially working on my own, that like it is a huge help for me to get a feel for the client and the tone of what we're doing here.
Yes, definitely.
Not often could I say to a client, what's the tone of what we're trying to do? But by sitting and talking with them and by trying out tones while I'm talking about it, it helps me understand what we're here to do, in what way we're here to do it.
I talk about emotion a lot when I talk to people, because everybody knows emotion.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you want it to be exciting? Do you want it to be happy? Do you want it to be motivating?
Yeah.
I often explain that when people are like, how do you learn how to make a logo? And I'm like, well, I act like a journalist and ask a billion questions.
Yep.
And keep asking until I start thinking of ideas in my head, and then
totally
go from there. So is there something you didn't learn for a creative process that you do use?
Something I didn't learn for creative process that I do use.
Or something you discovered that this really helps me?
Yeah, totally. Like
going to Pinterest for color palette inspiration?
Yeah. Well, I was actually going to say something just like that. Like I have something that happened organically was that I just started keeping a folder. I always call it a folder of awesomeness. Just a folder of things that I gathered from blogs or from memes over the years. That was like, sometimes it was a really silly photo of a dog. Sometimes it was a neat 3 ads. Sometimes it was a neat radio spot, like whatever. I would just keep a folder of this stuff. And over time, that folder became like thousands of files deep, and they were not organized. Some of them had keywords in their file names, like print or like poster or like illustration, but often they were just grabbed from the internet, and there were a whole bunch of numbers or something.
Right. Screenshot on date.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. Yes, exactly. But like, I found out that I could just put like a name on them. So of every illustration file that I keep, because it's a cool illustration, I add at the start of the file illustration _. And I do that for files that I keep because they're cool for typography, files that I keep because they're cool advertising, files that I keep because they're cool tattoos, cool home things. I have an awesome _ folder, which is great because it's just full of funny GIFs of leprechauns skateboarding or something. Like, I'm not kidding. But
amazing.
I know in school, and I know in just industry, you were taught to look for inspiration before you begin, without being derivative and without being plagiaristic. You're not going to steal. But I found making those folders, and I look at them in Bridge, where I can see just like a preview of everything, all laid out in a grid. Like, dude, I'll look at my illustrations folder when I'm trying to think of an idea for, an ambient execution, or I'll listen to radio spots when I'm trying to think of video content ideas. That's stuff that I know flipping through magazines is the analog for that. That's what used to be the norm, and that's cool. But I don't know. I found that's a way that works well for me that nobody really told me about beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
because I was coming out of college in 03, and like the internet was around, but we were still on Windows ME, and Windows 95 and 98. Like this was not
the one everybody tried to skip.
Yeah, exactly. Like this, like I know it's normal now. We all have Imgur and Reddit and like adsoftheworld.com, but those three I just mentioned didn't even exist back then. When you found a neat image, you kept it, and it was weird.
If you're anything like me, and most of the other creative people, it's been really difficult to stay creative lately because our brains are in that fight or flight survival mode.
Yeah.
So how do you stay creative without being overwhelmed with everything happening?
Well, I'm really lucky that the place that I grew up, it was in Halifax, but we had like 2 acres of forest around us. The house that I lived in had like wood fired, like a wood stove in the winter. That was how we got heat and stuff. So we had to do a lot of chopping of wood. There was a lot of yard work to do. I don't know. I'm lucky to have been blessed with a really good work ethic from that.
Right.
And I'll also say that, I mean, TBH, I've been at being creative for a long time, and it's kind of a muscle for me.
True.
There's some times where I can I'll be at a boardroom table with a bunch of, board members looking at me, and I'm caught with a question off guard, and I just sort of like, I could feel internally myself blindly reach into a well and see if I'm going to come up with something right here at the table. And I usually kind of do. So it's like, well, that's really a blessing. That's really cool. And I'm happy to have that. A boss of mine used to have a framed quote on his wall, and it was, inspirations for amateurs. The rest of us just show up and get to work. So it was like a little bit of that, but I find like, I think of that and it's like, it's just really cruel to those who it doesn't come easy to. That's not fair to say that. I will say that the current situation makes it hard because another thing that I'm used to as a professional is people asking me to do stuff for them. People come to me when they need a print ad made or when they need a campaign done. People aren't coming to me anymore, and that's okay. We're on pause, or we're slowed down anyway. So I'm trying to come up with things on my own to do, and it's doing good. But after 2 months of it, I'm starting to get a little tired of doing that. I just really want a week off from being in my brain.
It's getting exhausting not having that stream of creative challenges is a good way to put it, where you're continuing to challenge yourself and make the clients happy and feel productive because you're putting work out there.
Yeah. I think too, like, I'm a reasonably mature person, and I know we all are, but I think a part of it is just that we all grew up with parents, and parents told us what to do and when to do it a lot of the time.
Yes.
And my parents weren't controlling. They're great people, but like at the same time, sometimes I just need to be told to go do a thing. And I'm great in my home and I'm great at my work, but sometimes it's just nice to have someone to do that. And usually your email inbox is the thing that pushes you around. When it's not doing that, when that inbox isn't bossing you around a little bit, you keenly feel the void there. But
and the deadlines aren't hard deadlines anymore. They're sort of like, well, I could do that this Friday or 2 Fridays from now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the other thing to say about art too. Like art kind of needs a deadline. Otherwise it's just like, you could keep rewriting or changing and saving your file forever and ever.
Yes.
Not having a deadline kind of drives a creative person a little bonkers under the skin. They might not know it, might not admit it, but like it gives you that twitchy, creepy crawly sensation underneath over time.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like me with imposter syndrome and are a perfectionist. Nothing ever gets finished.
No, I know.
I'm getting better though.
Yeah.
Because you can't release anything unless it's, finished. So
I will say too, I mean,
put anything out.
I mean, this probably won't help you, but I remember reading this great article once 10 years ago about how like it's even harder these days to leave things kind of imperfect, because in this world of ones and zeros, you publish something, even if you just put it on Instagram and you delete it later, it still exists somewhere forever. So there's like this strange pressure to make art, which is supposed to be about expression and free thought. Now it's really about getting it exactly right before you push publish, and that's not fair.
Especially early in my design career, because it's actually my second career. I worked for 12 years in a software development shop as a technical writer.
Yeah.
Where my creativity was never used. And then when I learned about design, I was like, oh my God. So I was extra hard on myself starting out in design because I felt so much farther behind.
Yeah.
I was like, and all of my classmates were like, 10 to 15 years younger.
Yeah.
And so I was like comparing myself to everybody.
Yeah.
And thinking, this person did this amazing artwork, but my skill level's not there yet, or my technical knowledge isn't there yet.
Yeah.
So I finally sort of slapped myself in the face and was like, grow up.
Well, it is a get over yourself moment. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where it's like, you're doing amazing with the amount of time you've worked on things and the knowledge you have. You're doing awesome. So stop.
Exactly. And in the end, it's you're doing what only you can do.
Right.
So, just keep doing what makes you as a person happy, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome. So I know we've talked about your design and working with agencies, but I know you do a lot of other crafts in your spare time that are analog and not even to do with computers, step away from the screen. So what is it about these that bring you joy? And is there anything that you learn from doing that you bring back into your creativity as a designer?
Oh, for sure. Things like that. Like I do a lot of hand illustration and hand typography. I'll do cross stitch and string art and watercolor pencil stuff sometimes. I've done wool felting and woodworking and all that. Those things, they're challenging. They're not something that... Those are all things that I picked up with no knowledge of before I tried, other than I might have seen them done once. Thankfully, we live in a world of YouTube, so I know how to cast on and cast off a knitting, gig. But beyond that,
increase, decrease.
Yes, exactly. But these things are hard because they're hard. They're challenging because they're hard. Like, there's no undos while you're drawing. I mean, I'm sure all of us listening, you're drawing and you probably hit Command S in your brain all the time while you're drawing, because I can't go back. Once I put my hand back on the paper, I might smudge it. I know my cross stitch is going to get more wrinkled as I go. And to me,
I feel that's part of the beauty of it, though.
Yeah, it's kind of the fun of it.
And worn, and some of the thread gets a little frayed on the edges that you started with. Yeah. Yeah,
I love that, because it's not going to be, you get to accept that it's not going to be as polished as it was in your mind. It's not fair to expect perfection. It's fine. Also, it's kind of fun that when you're done, people look at it and go oh my God, that's amazing. And you're like, all I can see is how I screwed up this guy's face, though. It's just, I chose the wrong thread color and no one sees it, but that's all that I see. I kind of it's a little playing a prank on yourself in a way. It's just, I don't know. It's something that only I see, and it gives me a pain, and that's kind of funny. That's kind of humorous. But honestly, I like doing these things because these are things that I can do. I just like finding the things I'm good at. I tried string art once, and since then, 5 years ago, I've done dozens of string art pieces because I discovered I loved it. I've tried cross stitch. I discovered I liked that. So I've done a half dozen pieces since. I tried embroidery since that. I found out I didn't like that. And I haven't done any more. It's these things kind of reveal to you who you are. And if you don't try them, you'd never know. So you might as well.
Yeah. And myself, I also love doing the handcrafted things where at the end of the day you're like, I made something, and you can touch it, and it's not just going to be on Facebook somewhere and disappear.
Yeah.
Which a lot, when you do advertising campaigns, that can happen to some of your work.
For sure.
It's still important. Please keep hiring us to make those. But this winter, I decided I'm going to teach myself how to crochet, because YouTube, you just need yarn and one hook. And I was flabbergasted with like how many websites are out there and free patterns and different, like, I didn't even know you could like crochet whole like sculptures and like stuffed animals.
Yeah,
and,
man.
like, I was like, this is crazy, and I love it.
Yeah, I used to say, like, I don't know, and this is me talking to creatives or graphic designers or whatever, and say like, guys, we not only have to do creative things for a living, like we get to do that stuff. We're not, doing a job that we don't like or that someone else considers beneath someone. We're doing these things that are amazing. We're getting paid to do them. Now, I mean, I can plus one on that. We live in this world where there's tutorials all over the place to tell you how to do a thing. And there's big box stores on every corner, and there's eBays and Amazons that you can get whatever supplies you want. Geez, it's almost like, why wouldn't you explore that stuff now?
Yes. I agree.
One day the internet will explode and we won't be able to do it anymore. And I know that's like not very likely. I don't know how that would even happen, but I'm just saying, like, one day we might not be able to do it. So you better do it now. What if you had to pay per megabyte kind of thing? I'm not doing that. I'm going to learn all this stuff now.
Yeah. My relatives in Quebec have to do that. Ugh. I don't want that.
Thoughts and prayers,
no, thank
man.
you.
Yeah.
No Netflix marathon for you.
So sorry to hear that. Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah. I say a little prayer for them every weekend. Yeah. They still have cable though, so
Well, sure. I mean,
they have to, because they
Dancing with the Stars don't watch itself, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
So you've been involved as a designer in many advertising campaigns at your current MPAS projects, and right now no one wants to be sold anything. With the hard sell is like a hard pass. Do you see any shifts in how people are going to approach marketing and advertising through this? And what do you hope will stay when this is over?
Oh, totally. I mean, it's changed so much, and I see good news to it, if you can call it that. And it's like, what's happening now is what I've felt we've been missing for a long time.
Yes, me too.
In branding and marketing, but in branding, for example, it's an exercise in not discovering what color your logo is. It's an exercise in discovering what you care about that other people care about, that you're going to align with each other on. So now that we can't, bring people into stores and tell them why our headache pills are better, now we have to do actual marketing and not advertising. We have to prevent the headaches of an entire community and talk about how we, relieve pain, and we care about pain relief by donating to such and such a cause. That's a weirdo example, but you know what I mean? I
know what you mean. Yeah.
I think it's funny. I know it's a bit of a paradox, but I'm an advertiser and I like advertising a lot, but I really don't like the consumer culture that is kind of rampant in North America. So I've never really wanted to do advertising that said, hey, here's why you should buy this product. It's more like, hey, here's why you should like us. Or not even that. Hey, here's why we like you. And then people will jump on board or people will not. I guess all that backs up to right now. Yeah, you're right. It's hard to do a hard sell, because just putting another tchotchke in the liquor store isn't going to make people buy your wine anymore. You have to actually give things, and you have to try different promotions, try different pairings. You have to talk to people. You have to put yourself out there. That's stuff that we've been ramping up towards for a long time anyway, I think. And I'm happy to see that happening.
Yeah, I find the brands that are stepping up to do actual good for either helping, like the Bauer when they decided to start making masks for doctors.
Yeah.
Like, who in a million years would have thought like a hockey brand that makes hockey helmets would be able to help doctors? But here they are doing it.
Right.
And the small distilleries that are making hand sanitizer, there's I think those brands are the ones that will stand out and grow going forward. The ones that just resist and stay firm in their, I hate this attitude, but this is how we've always done it.
I know, right? And you have to avoid that stuff. Like, I don't know, I really like quoting things, and like the great Chris Farley movie Tommy Boy, there's a line in that of just like,
it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, his father's talking about the automotive industry, but he says, in this world, any business that tries to wait it out will be just that, out. You're either growing or you're dying. There ain't no third direction. It's like, I know that there's a lot of research that says advertising in a downturn increases future sales. Like, I'm not going to refute that because my brain isn't as good as dozens of years of research. But I will say that I don't think advertising is the right word there. It's marketing during downturns.
Right. Right.
I've been doing a lot of things for my own business's brand in this time. And those things are based on the fact that, I don't know, I have the ability to do some things like gather people to do coloring sheets. It's a small thing,
right? But
I did it. And I can think of a lot of other creative outlets that haven't done anything. Well, when this is all said and done, I don't know, maybe I won't be better off than I was, but I'll feel a little bit better. And I like to think I'll be remembered 1% more because I delivered something to someone.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the businesses now who are continuing to show up and not just to sell something, but just show up and ask those questions. How are you doing? Can I help you? Is there anything? I know a lot of people in my network of small businesses and people who run a business of one person have been doing a lot more service swaps. Yeah. So I'll help you with some design if you can help me with some coaching, or you can help me brainstorm some social media posts. Yeah. So that you're continuing to grow and expand your network, but you're not necessarily exchanging monetary funds. Yeah. But you better believe when I think of someone who could help someone else, I'll be like, that person, they're awesome. Yeah. Because they helped me when I needed it most.
Exactly. And like in any market, but especially in this market, your reputation is worth more than you can possibly imagine, kind of thing. So the more times your name can get passed around, the better. That doesn't just mean networking and throwing around business cards. There's a place for that too. But I mean, like, you have to perform, you have to be liked, you have to like actually mean something, that sort of stuff. On the topic of sales though, because I mean, the job that you and I have as self-employed creatives, we have to go out and get work sometimes. And
yes,
my girlfriend's in sales and I learn a lot from her on the topic. And it was like, I'd heard a great little fact once about something like, you don't have to go into the hard sell. It's not the only kind of selling. But right now, one of the best things you can do is just call to check up on people. You don't have to call and say, hey, have you given any thought to the proposal that, we talked about? Or, hey, if you want to launch in June, we need to work now. Okay, bye. That's not the kind of call you make. The kind of call you make now is, how are you doing? Is there anything that you need? Like, can I bring you, not can I bring you groceries, but like, is there any way that I can help? Is there anything that I can do? Okay. I know you have that. Don't apologize for not looking at that proposal yet. We'll get to that when we get to that. I just want to make sure you're cool. the whole climate of this pandemic and this isolation stuff has changed, where that was really good advice 3 weeks ago. And now it's like, your sales call better have a bit of a reason. And by the time you, almighty listener, listen to this, the rules will have changed again. I get that. But ultimately, we're a bunch of people here to help a bunch of people. That's the way I see these things.
Yes. Well put. I agree 100%. So let's chat about Dartmouth colors and Halifax colors. Okay. How did it become an idea that you pursued and now is a huge thing?
Oh, dude, that was just... So I was in this weird place where I was like trying to find creative outlets for myself. And I did things like a small series of like little instructional videos that are super nerdy and talking about file naming and stuff like that. They were just for designers, but okay. I had fun doing that. I explored some new skills. I was doing a promoted post series on Instagram about, okay, so you're going to be working from home now. Like, I work from home, and I remember how weird that transition was. I'm not an expert, but here's what I noticed from working from home. And eventually I was just... a few things came together all at once. I saw that the canteen in Dartmouth had shifted their business, or the word is they pivoted to cooking. They can't cook meals for people to come into the restaurant anymore, but what they can do is cook meals for people in their community who need meals delivered to their home.
Right.
Food insecure families.
Right.
It's really important to take care of them. I saw that story. Bubbling in the back of my head was also, I'm a freelance creative. In my Twitter feed, there's loads of freelance creatives.
Same.
A lot of which are local illustrators, and everyone's looking for work, and no one can get it. Or at the time, no one could get it, or it was hard to get. Let me say that. And I just sort of was feeling for that situation, and I was like, geez, man. I was even thinking of reaching out to 10 local illustrators and commissioning each of them to do a profile pic for me. Just draw my face. I'll pay you $50 or $100. I don't know, whatever. I'll pay you something. And then I'll have a whole slew of these things, and I supported you. You get, my picture calls you out a little bit, and that's a way. But I was like, no, there's got to be something even better, something actually good. And finally I put all that stuff together in my head just while washing the dishes or something one night. And I was like, if I could harness the power of these illustrators to help the offering that the canteen is doing. And not only that, but in a community like Dartmouth that I lived in for a couple of years, I really came to love Dartmouth a lot. I just reached out and asked a half dozen illustrators that, currently lived or used to live in Dartmouth, and they all were happy to join in.
Yeah.
Another thing I was seeing a lot of on social media too was because we're artists, we're so in touch with our feelings and stuff.
Yeah.
That like I could see that people weren't as happy and they didn't have a purpose because no one's hiring them. They're losing their jobs. Like some people, have 3 or 4 jobs and were getting laid off from those things. And it's like, geez, man, I'd love to give people a reason something to look forward to today, even if it's just drawing a picture of the ferry for me.
Yes.
Because I appreciate it, because I do. So yeah, we did it within a week. I got 6 local illustrators in a week to do a drawing. I put one in there too. We printed 200 of those things. Brought them to the canteen, and the canteen passed them on to their distribution center who moved them on. As soon as that ended, I was like, I wonder if I should do another one, a Halifax one. And immediately I got so tired at the idea. I was just like, I can't.
The work.
I've just been running so hard, and I have to start over and anyways, I started over. I reached out and used some help. I didn't just reach out to illustrators that I know. I reached out to ad agencies, galleries, shops, classes, youth groups. Hey, everybody, we're doing this thing. If you want to contribute an illustration, people keep writing them to me and saying, here's my submission. And it's like, it's not a submission. Like, you're in. Like, you're 100% you're in. I don't have to do anything.
Is it a jury show?
Yeah, no. Like, so we have right now I have over 50 illustrations in the Halifax edition. Those, like I said earlier, went to print last week. The first run went to print, and I delivered 750 coloring sheets. And those are just what I delivered. I've been talking to Halifax Public Libraries. They're printing their own.
Amazing.
Dartmouth MLAs are providing them in their newsletters. The Halifax Junior Bengal Lancers is doing the same thing.
Amazing.
In fact, they're sending me horse drawings soon, which I'm really happy about because I forgot about horses. Yeah, like that's really important. And that's how that one began. Now, all of those things still have a life to them after their first print run. We'll be doing more print runs. They also all exist online. I can share a link maybe to where they can be found on my website.
Definitely.
They're all high res. They're all unabashedly. There's no curtain to look behind. These are all high res, great big files. You download the ones you want, you print them, you color them up. Maybe you share them online with hashtag community colors with a U. And, it's just, it's a fun thing. In the end, it's nice to know that you can do something for the community. And the fact that people like it, that's just gravy on the cake, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when you talked on 95.7 with Sheldon, I loved how you said that you were trying to give illustrators and designers purpose again.
Yeah.
And also how, because at the time we were still self-isolated and parks weren't open, when I saw the illustration of the pond with the geese, I was like, if that's your favorite place to go and you can't go there, at least you have this that you can color and you can like reminisce and be nostalgic about being there and think of that mean goose and like, all the things, you think of walking through the grass and you can hear the water.
Yeah. Well, ultimately too, like, we are all isolated and we're all probably getting a little bored of whatever board games we have kind of thing.
Yes.
And like, honestly, when you think about like a young child going through this, like they have their parents to help them through it and they have a lot to stimulate them. And that's great. But imagine taking 3 months of your third year of your life, taking a quarter of your third year where you don't get to see pigeons. You don't get to see, the ferry. You don't get to see water or boats or dogs or any of that stuff, just whatever's walking by your window. Like, I know a coloring sheet doesn't replace that, but to bring a little bit of the outside world into your home, that's worth doing.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of all of HRM, thank you. And anyone, because really someone in the US or Vancouver can download them, right? So
yeah, dude, I got an email while I was at my cottage a couple weeks ago, or no, not my cottage. I was at doesn't matter where I was out. I got an email, and it was an elderly couple writing me saying, "Thank you so much for doing this thing. We printed them off and sent a whole bunch to our granddaughters in Seattle."
Amazing.
I'm like, that's really cool. Like, you don't, like, I don't know, and to go to your way to write that, like, wow, man, that hits you right where you live. That's great.
Yeah. I strongly believe that gratitude, first of all, gratitude is contagious. When you thank someone, they want to thank someone. And also gratitude helps put out that fear. So the more you can be thankful and grateful for everything, all the things you still have, not what you lost, then you can get a little bit happier. I know it's not usually much because of this crazy time, but it helps.
You work with what you got.
Exactly.
And sharing good words is about the best thing you can share right now.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
If someone wants to reach out to you after the show, where is the best place to communicate with you, follow you, tag you, download those coloring book pages?
All right. Yeah. all that stuff, I think the one answer for all those things is I'm most active on Twitter and Instagram.
Okay.
And I keep both of them up to date with like profile links and stuff. You can find me on either at symbol P Tabbiner. That's PTABBINER. That's my handle on Instagram. That's my handle on Twitter. If you wanted to look me up, my portfolio or anything like that, it's ptabbiner.com. And those coloring sheets, well, that could be all found on ptabbiner.com/communitycolors-HFX.
Awesome.
And links to those things, links to my website and to the community colors can be found on my social media, Twitter or Instagram, probably pretty quickly.
Yes, especially recently because all of the artists and illustrators are resharing and retweeting.
Yeah, there's been a lot of that. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I want everybody to. And if anybody has any ideas of who else should be sharing this stuff, who else could be distributing it, like, let me know. I'd love to get anybody involved.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show. It was amazing to chat with you. I miss having chats, coffee shop chats.
I know, right? It's nice to have a human face again.
Exactly. That you don't live with.
No,
Although we love them
it's nice to see someone else's wall. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Sarah. It's my pleasure to join in. You're doing good stuff, and I want to see more of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Have a great day.
Yeah, same to you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. And that's it for episode 3 with Pierre Tabbiner. Thanks so much for listening. It means the world that you're here. And if you'd like to follow on other channels, just look me up at Creative Conflab. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, the podcast is also available on all your major platforms. Have an amazing day. I hope you get the chance to be creative and be well.